And I'm going to say an evocation too, per set here. Build, feed, accelerate, destroy, rearrange these pieces until they take on a whole new meaning. Not there, but there. The figure keeps changing. Build, feed, accelerate, destroy, rearrange these pieces until they take on a whole new meaning. Not there, but there. The figure keeps changing. Rearrange these pieces until they take on a whole new meaning. Not there, but there. The figure keeps changing. Not there, but there. Not there, but there. The figure keeps changing. The figure keeps changing.
Slither hither, dear witches and weirdos, for it is time for another episode of the PRAGMAGICK Radio Hour, brought to you by the Odd Fellows of WtH. Support this broadcast and all original music within at patreon.com/PRAGMAGICK. For Patreon-only streams, full albums, full videos, audiomancy rituals, and writings exclusive only to patreon.com/PRAGMAGICK. And now, a message from Revelator Ross concerning tonight's broadcast.
Thanks, Johnny. I just wanted to mention the contents for tonight's episode. We will be premiering a not yet released excerpt from an audiomancy working of a forthcoming haunt manual working, which tethers my chat with Temple of Babylon Kuranzan and Listening Post Alpha's heir apparent Bobby Hale. It was recorded a few months ago, but I feel it all the more apparent to be tethering it now, considering the works that have transpired since. We discuss the Gematria and SpiritBox methods to commune with the other, and you'll see just how far we've gone since then. After which I will have a short chat with fellow LPA agent and musical cohort Saroth The Mage, where we will be premiering a new track from our tentatively titled Dream Boys of the New Apocalypse project. This is one of the many audiomancy tracks I will be submitting to the Green Mushroom Project and WtH Mixtape. Say, Johnny, why don't we fill the folks in on what the mixtape is?
Sure thing, Revelator. Lux Occult Podcast and the Green Mushroom Project is teaming up with our anarchic magic collective, WtH, to conjure Fuck Around and Find Out 2, a digital mixtape. A sequel to the Fuck Around and Find Out zine released last year. Please visit WtHallow.org/mixtape for submission guidelines. You have only until the 23rd of this month. That is May 23rd to submit. I know our last-minute bandit Revelator Ross here still needs to.
Last-minute bandit? Yeah, I guess you're right, Johnny. I am submitting an array of things before the 23rd, so it's taking me a little time, you know.
Ah, sure, champ. Just keep telling yourself it's not the indecision.
It's not. I have multiple projects to include. Why are you doing this right now?
Well, I'm just saying, it's kind of hard out here for one podcast a month on an announcer salary. I've got kids to feed.
Oh, okay, Johnny. Can we talk about this later? I guess Johnny's right about one thing. If you have been missing out on the PRAGMAGICK consistency, please join the Patreon. That's where I do most of all of my projects are funneled through there. And yes, please submit to the Green Mushroom Project and WtH Digital Mixtape. You have until the 23rd of May, and
don't be like Keats here and get those submissions in. The sooner, the better.
Okay, yeah. Thanks, Johnny. Do what Johnny's saying, and with that, let's kind of jump in to the episode. what you're listening to is a not yet released excerpt of the Prospectre Hauntomancy Dim Session Ritual. It was performed using a SpiritBox and other instruments, and is now being decoded using the ALW Gematria. I mention these specifically because my guest, Temple of Babylon Karanzan and Listening Post Alpha's Bobby Hale, is the one who helped inspo punch these inclusions into my Hauntomancy workings. This ritual perfectly encapsulates a hauntological moment, a stark, mad turn in Haunt Manual's workings, from the nostalgiamancy into a purer form of hauntomancy. You can still pick up Scavenge Rituals, some writing of mine about the ritual, and a 7-minute excerpt of this ritual printed on 5-inch vinyl at scavengerituals.com. So without further ado, here is my conversation with the ear apparent Bobby Hale. So slither hither, wither, and thither, weirdos and witches. Just incredibly excited to talk to Mr. Bobby Hale of Temple of Babylon Karanzan. You came into my purview through our wonderful friend Stevie, who is in the chat, Mr. Saroth The Mage.
Deacon Ray,
that's right. Which I do love. I'm going to steal it. The Audio Mantis title. yeah. But yeah, so what happens a lot with me, and especially the like huge currents and tufts of things that inspire and kind of attract me, they're like whirlwind heats, you know? And like when I was working on Haunt Manual and diving deep into kind of my own personal ghosts and, you know, echoes, I was, you came into my purview even heavier. And when you sent me Listening Post Alpha, which there are so many tethers to that, not only being in the, Pacific Northwest, being close to where Twin Peaks was shot and everything, but, my audiomancy practices, it just seemed like a perfect convergence of a lot of things that were barking at me that I just didn't really dive into yet, especially with the NAEQ and the Gematria, concepts with it. And I have just a snippet from LPA that is about you and kind of your background. It might be a little esoteric, but I just love how it's written, so I'm going to read it. All right. LPA, Listening Post Alpha, would go without a Master of the Tower for the next 30 years until the year 2021, when the heir apparent Bob Ra Anana, Bobby Hale, would be named new Master of the Tower and Chief Alchemist of the Blue Rose Task Force. Starting at a very early age, Blue Rose sent spirit guides to teach Bob about the tools and techniques for investigation and communication in the ultra-terrestrial minefield. It was not until he experienced the spiritual purifications of High Priestess Leah Nuit Babal in the Temple of Babylon Karanzan, the House of Every Flower, and the Temple of Red Cruelty, that he was ready to know how all these techniques may work together. And with that, welcome, Mr. Bobby Hale.
It's great to be here. Thank you.
Yeah, it's just such a Listening Post Alpha is definitely in another parallel for me too. Is it's not so much I'm a little magicked out, right, about other kind of currents and traditional senses, what really inspires and drives me are almost this journalistic kind of, integrity with how you are utilizing your own microcosm of magic. And listening Post Alpha is that. It's a journal of, you reaching all of these bounds and flailing kind of tethers into the unknown.
Yeah.
And then putting it out there into the world, as it were. And so
it's definitely a pulling together of things that I've been doing since I was just a little child, that I did that just for fun, and a weird fun that, like the little voice in my head just told me, you should try this, you're bored. Yeah. And I was always into sports and stuff when I was a kid, but I guess the athletics made me very geared towards activity, Yes. And that's where it helped me. That's where sports helped me out, I think, as a child. And later I quit sports for to be a punk rocker. I started playing in bands when I was like 12 years old. Yeah. And that pretty much set the trajectory from there. But early on, before, even puberty, I was very into like recording basically like audio cut-ups on my boombox. I would listen to like Radio Static and like the AM stations where like there would be like two channels intermingling and stuff like that, and I would mix them up with then like samples from songs I liked and stuff like that, and listen to that shit and drive people crazy, and but I always loved it. It was always so pleasurable to me doing it and then going back and listening to it again. And
yeah, I'm just beside myself how parallel our experiences are.
Yeah, and exactly. I felt the same way when I was reading the haunt manual stuff, is that I was like, yeah, man, this is very much, I feel this way a lot about a lot of my projects that kind of haunt me today when I was a child, and and I'm always trying to like integrate that stuff into my practice.
Right.
When Temple of Babylon Kronzon comes out of divorce, I had just received my college diploma. I was like, a lot of what was going on in my life was a little boy trying to grow up into a man. And it was, despite the fact that I was kind of like doing everything that everyone asked of me, it was still not really working, And so when I came back home, I was like, literally back in the womb of my mother, back in her home. And I had to like a lot of examination to do, and, I think I have become that man that I want to be through the Temple of Babylon Kronzon and through integrating all this kind of stuff, and finding a partner that is also, supportive of that and is kind of in the same vein, of thinking, and was kind of doing the same stuff also as a child, and us being able to like lock into that inner child together and to really play the game of shadows in safety has really been a huge game changer in my life, and a huge game changer in how I see and approach magic.
Yeah, what's interesting to me too, through our kind of parallel patchworking, is that I think we come from a lonerism, right? Like an outsiderdom, right? Yeah. But through something like punk rock, which was, the ethos of it, not so much the actual, aesthetic, but like the ethos of the DIY culture and, making things yourself and creating your own little microcosm of a universe, bridging into magic. I find it interesting that us coming from that whether it's Temple of Babylon Kronzon or We the Hallowed, we are, trying to facilitate kind of an anarchic group, a punk band of, folks with different, pedigrees, if they're that even, So I think that's always super interesting that, I was thinking about that the other day. I think Stevie had Luxa Strata on, who's a friend of mine. And, it was, her talking about Green Mushroom Project. And it's like all of these folks that are parallel to me now and folks that I'm collaborating with or talking with, we all kind of have that innate want to share the disparity rather than to just, kind of follow suit with something.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
It's encouraging. Yeah. It's encouraging that that's still going on. There's a lot of dogmatism.
Yeah. Well, so what's interesting too is what I used to call them when I was making tape collages as a kid and pissing off my mother. I would meditate to them and I would hear things that weren't initially there, right?
Yeah.
And in my kid mind, I would call them aminals.
Yeah,
they were like, off. It was, just a bad misspelling of something that's usual because it was a communication, but it was off. And my wondering is like, what's your kind of like the genealogy of how you've interpreted the things that were coming to you?
Yeah, I think when I was a kid, I just thought, I just thought it was fun, like funny that things would come together like that,
Yeah.
I think what I would consider my earliest synchronistic experience that really freaked me out and made me question like what is reality was this is going to sound like bullshit, but it's true. I was playing Batman. I was dressed up as Batman and I didn't have my Batman mask. And so I found my Batman mask. It was laying in the floor in the living room. And I'm at my grandmother's house, by the way. And I go to pick up the Batman mask, and there's a bat underneath the mask. And I was like, and I didn't know what it was at first. I kind of jumped and like ran and jumped up in my grandmother's arms and was like, it's a monster. Yeah. And they were like, they went in. Yes. And they went in and they were like, no, that's a bat. It came in with your grandfather last night. My grandfather was a musician, and, he would come in all late at night and stuff, but and I knew there was like a rational reason for it, but it just seemed just so like, why is there a bat under my Batman mask? Like, am I Batman? Like, is that right? And so stuff like that, and then later when
it's like your version of the Frank Miller, like, I shall become a bat.
Yeah, right. But and then later, as I got a little older, I guess I was running wild with some friends on Highway 93, as a matter of fact. And there was a curiosity shop on Highway 93 that was like, it was a straight up metaphysics shop, and it had a bunch of great books. And we went in there and I just shoplifted a couple of books. I think they knew, but the guy let me go with them, and one of them was Simon's Necronomicon, and the other one was, and I didn't know anything about grimoires. Like, when I got it, I thought this is a real magical text for, I thought it was like the real Necronomicon. And then the other book was that I just got because it looked cool was The Job by William S. Burroughs.
Oh yeah.
And when I sat down, now Simon's Necronomicon, I kind of, I was like, I don't know. But when I sat down with Burroughs and I read The Job, and there's all this technical writing about the cut up, and then like examples of the cut up, and all this technical writing about other kind of methods of self-knowledge and gnosis and time travel. Then I started putting two and two together with kind of what who I was and the things that I was into and where I was going with all this, because at that point I was already doing some like into like remix culture, and like listening to like a lot of like DJ Shadow and stuff like that I thought was, and that I loved because it was this mashup of all these
introducing.
Yes, introducing was a big like change my shit yeah, it was very important to me. And so I was all that stuff kind of like, and the Beastie Boys, you know, and all that stuff. I mean, I was crazy about all that kind of stuff. And then once I read Burroughs and kind of got some theory behind it, that was really powerful for me. And then I started using it in a more directed way, you know, like I would make a track and be like, this is a curse, you know, or this is to get X, Y, or Z. And I didn't know at the time that was called chaos magic or anything like that, you know, or even magic really. But I was like, I knew I was doing something to affect the universe, and that it worked, you know. So yeah, that is really where I come from. And then it was only later actually that I got into the punk rock stuff. And that was because, well, that's what everybody could play the guitar to a degree. And I kind of wanted to perform and kind of get a culture going. And I felt like that was like the best way to like step on the gas and just, you know, put the pedal to the metal and get something going, which it really did, you know.
I mean, that's exactly it. Yeah. That's my entire like bullheaded, wide-eyed opus of that, of, you know, anything I've learned how to do or play musically was just because it was in my mind. It's like, oh, well, I guess I'll learn drums or I'll learn, you know. And so it's been that process. But I do think it's funny that I think for folks, you know, in our kind of cavalcade of wonderment, that we do things first, and then there's this retro kind of causality of like, oh, that's what it's called.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. People do this, you know, and that's been both a malady and a, you know, high five, right?
Yeah.
Within that, because that felt that about,
and I'm still, you know, and I'm still trying to kind of be like, I'm still trying to get over the like ego wounds of stuff like that. Like, you know what I mean? It's like, I had that fucking idea 10 years ago, or like, I already did that. And what, you know, why is it that they're getting the attention for it, I'm not, or something like that, you know? So it is kind of a blessing and a curse, you know what I mean? But then
it definitely stems from the self and like just resonance.
Oh yeah.
You know, and like,
it's gross, you know. It's gross, and it's I think it's, you know, sometimes I'm trying to learn to take it as a gift from the spirit guides, and also be like, well, now will be very easy for me to jump back into that, you know, if I want to, you know. Because, you know,
I love that. So I guess in a similar way, and again, kind of piggybacking on this like retro causality thing, what has happened to me and what you might consider ultra terrestrial kind of communion, like I would have conversations and converse with things, and then later would find out, you know, I would be going through this like old metaphysical encyclopedia from the 70s, and they had, you know, something about Zoroastrianism and like the beast, the Druge, and I was like, oh my god, that's, you know, that's what came through in the audiomancy praxis. You know, now whether that's, you know, a singular kind of thing that I'm seeing outside of my conscious mind, or, you know, like I had picked it up somewhere or something, which I doubt. You know, it's these kind of tests that test me a lot, and I do waver where sometimes I want the ego of going, no, it's all coming from me. You know? Like,
that's
I want
really
that creativity, but at the same time, I'm not so sure.
That's really what I'm trying to like work. I mean, as far as like, shadow work or whatever, like that's really my deepest project right now, is like letting go of this illusion that I have a voice, you know, that there's like a Bob that has like his own voice, like, because these things came to me through me, you know.
And my filter.
I'm like the nexus point for all this stuff, and that's how I approach the work in the temple. And the more violently like I that I feel about something, the more obvious it is that I need to bind it or banish it, you know what I mean?
See, I love that. I get that too. There's especially when it comes to kind of conversing with brain chemistry as the other. It's this weird touch where I'm going, am I obsessive and passionate, for the right reasons? Is it, to get outside of myself, or is it to understand myself? And a lot of the times the understanding of myself is trying to figure out what's outside of myself. Right.
Yes.
But I think that could be just a timeless human characteristic, of just battling this ego of needing to, be the profunditer, the creator, the everything,
I think it has something to do
letting go of
I think
that
it has a lot to do with capitalism too, like
yes,
in a way that and it's also a byproduct of being a loner, I think too, there's always the cautionary tale of the guy in his tower, the academic in his tower who becomes bitter because he doesn't relate to anybody, or
the bitter hierophant.
Yes.
Which is definitely an aspect. That was another thing I want to talk about. Just kind of going more about this ultra terrestrial thing. You reminded me in your work of a quote from John Keel, and I had written it down because I'll just read it and then we can talk about it. Keel has said, there are literally hundreds of devil theories, some of them with millions of paranoid followers. If you read my books carefully, you will see that ultra-terrestrials are a literary device, not a theory. Keel expanded on this statement by saying, basically, what I attempted to do in my books was set up a frame of reference that the reader could hopefully understand. Obviously, I failed in this. Even now, people are still assuming that ultra-terrestrials are actual entities. What I said in 5 books, carefully spelled out and defined, is that we are the intelligence that controls the phenomena. And I remember reading this and going, well, that's I'm kind of growing out of that. I'm growing out of that understanding.
Yeah, I think. I think it's both. And I think.
Right,
I think
non-absolutist. Yeah.
I think Keel always tries to act like he's got the answer, like right now. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it seems like his answers are always changing too. I think at the end of the day, he doesn't know. But what he was trying to avoid, which I think is smart, was putting forth a new devil theory. You know what I mean? And I know in the 8th Tower, he's talking about how he was afraid that the earth itself was becoming like the new devil to a lot of fundamentalist Christians, and also like esoteric researchers and whatnot.
It's definitely a quote that stems from the plausible deniability kind of thing. You know what I mean? But I think creator, right? As a creator that reaches people with a theory and your works, like, it is smart to remind, well, this could all just be bullshit anyway, so don't take it.
I think it's important to when we're talking about ultra terrestrials, to what I mean by it is that it's any spirit, any form of other as perceived. I'm not necessarily saying that these entities have some sort of ultimate reality any more than but it gets really sticky. Spirit ontology, and I guess that's what I'm trying to avoid is this sort of stickiness of spirit ontology where you're making absolute claims.
Absolutely.
And that's what I'm trying to avoid.
Yeah.
And I think that's why
you're defining something without further introspection for people.
And then the sessions and the essays and the analysis, though, that will that's where the character of the entities comes out, and sometimes it, like if we do an evocation or an invocation or something like that, it really does come out very clearly, and then other times not so much, and we're not too sure what we're dealing with. And sometimes we've had proof that it is us, from the future, or like we've had done workings simultaneously where it seems like, it's maybe Groucho, like we're picking up Groucho's thoughts, and he's projecting them to us, and then Steve is picking up what we were talking about or something, or doing while he was doing his working. So yeah, it's
and that doesn't denote that it's just from you though. There's almost like a permeability of kind of the self, or like, you know what I mean, that you become the ultra terrestrial in a way.
Yeah.
My interest too, with another parallel when we started talking was ultra terrestrials, because as a lot of listeners will know, I have a firm disgruntled demeanor when it comes to modern ufology.
Yeah, I get that.
And I have a lot of friends in it, a lot of like from the debunker skeptic side, a lot of true believers, as Stanley would call them, right? But I get really annoyed that it's looking at the evidence the same way, the same evidence the same way forever, and it's frowned upon to talk about the ultra terrestrial theory. It's frowned upon, in modern ufology, and so I get grumpy about it. But I'm happy to see that it's still permeating, that it's still a thing. And I do think it's not unlike audiomancy, right? It's not a specific term from an individual. It's a scientific term that anyone can use, right? Because it's it means what it means, but it also has the web of everything that could be. And ultra terrestrial has always made sense to me, especially in my own practices and things that I have conversed with, or when I feel that it is outside of myself, as you said, the other, right? So yeah, it was just refreshing, because I talked to, I think Sam Shadow's in the chat too. I talk to Sam all the time about ultra terrestrials, and she's been up late with me as I'm griping about ufology.
Yeah, we LPA has some heated discussions about modern ufology as well. I think that one of the main problems is that it's so intermingled with the United States intelligence agencies that there's almost no way to apply Occam's razor to any of it. You know what I mean?
Well, Occam's razor is they're going to lie to you, right?
Yeah. Well, that. Yeah, exactly. So first of all, you're dealing with lies. Yeah. Or something, or that something's hidden. Somebody's hiding something. And the idea, there's a whole culture around it which automatically assumes the wildest of claims as well. So the idea that somebody is coming down from Venus directly or something like that, we know that it would be very hard. I mean, it could happen. It's in the realm of possibility, but what I mean, that it's a very wild claim. I am the kind of person that believes in like Venusian intelligences and stuff like that, but I question the ontology of those. I kind of view that stuff as like manifests as tulpas, as egregores, things. These are like thought forms that have come from people practicing and doing this work.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's a lot of the regard that I have too. When I was talking about that one instance with the Druze or whatever, is that and Alan Moore talks about this all the time. The plane of the fantastical from human imagination is realized. It's it, like any kind of magical current, it's charged, it's believed in, it becomes real enough to affect physical beingness, like belief and all of that. So, and I do I'm with you. I think that it is a literary device sometimes, and it isn't maybe other times. And
I definitely use it both ways. Absolutely. Unashamedly. Yes.
Yeah, and I want to ask you, and I think this is a perfect transition into the session. Your, back to that kind of that web of how you came to kind of discern the ultra terrestrial, and especially those that speak to you.
How did I come to discern it? I guess through the gematria, through these like systems of confirmation, So when I first started trying to make contact, doing spirit contact, it became very obvious to me. I was getting I did all kinds of weird experiments, and I would get the strangest of names, and and I just didn't. I was like, okay, well, that's interesting, but so what? Like one name was Egway, and I was like EGWI. Well, I searched it. I don't know. Later, I was like, oh, I think that was like Agwe, like the voodoo Loa, because it was asking for water and all this kind of stuff. But at the time, I had no frame of reference or anything like that. And it took me quite a while to figure that little clue, that little mystery out. So I started using at first dice and Crowley's 777 to at least try to identify the planetary or Kabbalistic correspondences with the spirit.
Okay. Yeah.
And I had some success, but it was still seemed confused and a lot of times like very vague. And I was depending still on sort of like some stuff that was too based in what other people were doing, I guess.
Yeah.
And so I was looking for English gematria systems that kind of resonated with me. And, I went through a bunch. I have a couple of just full notebooks full of experiments that I did. And I wasn't really getting anything, and it wasn't
by utilizing other systems.
Yeah.
It just wasn't translating.
And especially not with the Hebrew gematria was just not. It was just leaving me confused because I don't know Hebrew. I would like to learn, and I slowly am learning a lot about Hebrew as I go now. But I just wasn't there. I wasn't ready, and there was something else calling to me. It was like this is not the path. That's what I was getting. And it mostly was like this is not the way. There's another way. It's not. It's opening up. And it was more like here's what you do to open it up. And so I kept looking, and finally, I bought Liber 187 by Jake Stratton Kent.
Mm-hmm.
And I did a couple of little experiments using the cipher and using some of the methods in there, and it was also still kind of like meh. And then later, it was just like one day a switch came on, like it all came on together, And so I guess that the longest answer to that question is that like when it wasn't flowing,
you found the key.
Yeah, it was. I had to find a key. Yeah, and before I had that key, and I think the key could be different for lots of people. Like I think you could get into the ALW cipher and start studying stuff, and that really work for you. You might not need to find something else or some other mode completely other than gematria or something. I think that it has something to do with your resonance. I've always had sort of a very wordy, like mercurial understanding of mystical experience, so that's kind of how it's always come to me. So when the thing happened with the ear apparent, the see myself experience where everything just met in one nexus point, the cut up synchromystical experience, the Twin Peaks thing, and the ALW Gematria, when it all came together at one point, that was when it became much easier for me to figure out where I am, who I'm talking to, what the correlations, the correspondences, and what's the nature of this spirit or entity that I'm dealing with.
Yeah, and I love that, this work in Gematria too, because I'm still nascent, like with a lot of, especially the Crowleyan kind of aspects of it, just because I just missed that train for a bit. But working with the NAEQ stuff that you sent me, and I've always been a numerical person. I've always been, of that ilk, but I can see how in systems too, especially like kind of generating systems, like it's not giving you what you're looking for if you don't actually do the work, like the actual.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
You have to build kind of your own table of correspondences. You have to know a little bit about Crowley's Class A documents for the AA. You have to know a little bit about the degrees and all that kind of stuff before it can really resonate with you, and that was another thing, is that I really had to put in a real heavy study of Crowley for a couple of years too, before all those lights would come on, and it's been a major, and I've always resisted Crowley, and I still do to this day, but only to a degree. So yeah, I think if you want to take this ride with the cipher, you have to know a little bit about Crowley. And I think obviously that it's because it's derived from Liber Alvel Legis. And I honestly really do believe that it's a tool of an entity named Iwas, that it's almost like a cosmic trigger that he set off in time, and to be handed down to certain people to work with in order to communicate with the ultra terrestrials, and one of the other reasons I use the word ultra terrestrials is because in the culture of the NAEQ, that's been the main paradigm that's been used, like starting with Greenfield. So, and going on to Hellier and to what I'm doing, and so it's a part of the culture. So that's part of what I use. Just that same reason I use the AA, the Class A. But there's something very subversive to the whole thing with cutting into the Class A, and we've had all kinds of wild experiences with that, where it's like, wow, I think I just received an initiation to a certain degree of the AA, without actually being in the AA. Stuff like that, which I'm sure lots of people that they would not appreciate that. But, I think that things like that are possible. And I think that's another one of the powerful potentialities of a practice like this,
Yeah. And I feel too much going back to how you structured listening post alpha year one, which is, you do give coordinates, you give equations, and the rest is your interpretation. It's not meant for, this is the absolutist kind of idea of, how these things work out. And what I love about it is that it's that psychic spelunking into, what these mean to me, like how it's incredible. They're like synchronous measure points, or like synchronous tags, that you can log. And it's insane when you get really deep into it, and not insane in like a conspiratorial paranoid kind of way, but just a really beautiful tether to all things that these numbers kind of create.
The why, it's just like a huge weave, and it's finding your place in it at that time. And it's to the point where the practice guides my research, and my magical practice, but I had to get to a point where I knew what I was doing with the cipher. I think, there's two main traditions that grew up around the cipher, starting in the late 70s. One of them is the English tradition, which is called English Kabbalah, and they're more into the astrological assignments and how how to work those points in space time, which is extremely important. So
yeah,
with where we are right now in the English Kabbalah tradition is called the 418. And, you know, the Liberal Iwas talks about my house is 418, and Crowley famously fudged the Gematria to make it seem like Boleskine was house 418. And there's probably something to that, because I feel like there's definitely a very powerful ultra-terrestrial presence, especially since, you know, Loch Ness Monster comes from there. That's
yeah.
Loch Ness
See, I
Monster's
kind of
home.
I love the audacity to smudge it though. I'm sorry that I really dig that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, no, this doesn't work for me. We're gonna change it.
Yeah. So then, so anyways, the 418. The reason that this point in time is called the 418 is because by the cipher, the Libra, Scorpio, Sagittarius, and Capricorn equals 418, and this has been clearly charted out as an initiatory, a time of initiatory rites throughout history. And English Kabbalah has their own rites and their own initiations that you do, which I haven't really worked with, not out of disrespect or anything, just because I've been responsive to the guidance that I've had from my spirit guides. And so, like, for instance, this 418, this is not in this will be in next year's journal, but well, for Libra, I did the self-initiation rites into the Horus Mayotte Lodge with Leah. Groucho also did them. He wasn't not present in our temple, but he did them as well. Steve's been a member of Horus Mayotte Lodge, so that all made sense. And also, of course, Mayotte is associated with Libra and all that. So, but I did that because I was basically told to, you know. And then at the end of those workings, I was told to go back. We were just being inundated by spiders and spider dreams, spider imagery. We had kind of been working with Alan Greenfield and Michael Bertio's Memphis Mizraim degrees, which is like a self-initiatory path into Freemasonic, like esoteric research, using the cipher for confirmation of those experiences. So what we do that's the American tradition, right?
Yeah.
And so we're fusing those things together very slowly as they come to us. Now, I didn't know anything about that until somebody sent me some information about it, you know. But we've been fusing those things together. And so anyways, at the end of the Horus Mayotte Lodge workings, then we were getting really heavy vibes, spider vibes. And so I started checking the correspondences with the only spider work that I had done in the past, which was with Bertio's Temple Zaragwin, the Z spiders. And I had done that work pre-Temple Battle on Kronstadt, like before I really got with Leah and we started doing work together. I had done some work with Bertio's Grimoire Gede. And so I was like, I checked the correspondences, and it was like, it told me straight up, you know, do this work, go back to Temple Zaragwin and work with Temple Zaragwin and testify to the power of this system. And so I did it. The results were mind-blowing. And at the end of that working, I went back into the correspondences. I was looking for anything to do. What is it that I need to do for Sagittarius? And the only thing that I got really was to do this podcast. You know, so like when you came, you know, you came to me about a date, and I was like, I just did a working, and it said that on the 11th proceed, and there was something, and also there was something about flannel that kept coming up, and like even today I rolled the number for flannel. I was like, I guess I gotta wear. I didn't even know I had this flannel shirt, and like I went way back in the back of my closet. I found the flannel shirt. So these are things that I do. I'm, you know, in conversation. I mean, some people would call it like conversation with a holy guardian angel. Like sure. I'm in conversation all day, every day, you know, even when I'm not in the temple or at home. I still get the messages,
Yeah.
So
I love the flannel. You're giving a visual cue to my Pacific Northwest region.
Yes. And see, I didn't even think about it like that. I was thinking like about the woodsman, and they jump between the realms and the zone and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, which is funny because that was my reality until about a month ago. Was the woodsman, and now I'm in the circuitry. Yeah. But so maybe you would like to. I know we're running a little long. I hope that's okay with you. I'm having a blast.
I'm having a real good time.
Okay, cool. If maybe you want to give a rundown of what the session might look like, just for listeners. Okay. I don't want to step on your toes.
All right. So what we're doing here is I'm going to try to channel this entity that's housed behind me. Her name is Praset here, and she gave birth to the Temple Babylon Kronzon. She emerged as first a splatter painting and a cut-up project that Leah and myself worked on as we fell in love with each other. And originally it was I devised it as a magnet to pull her in. So
that's awesome.
And now what we have with Perset here is we have a whole deck of a cartomantic deck is what I call it. I wouldn't call it like a tarot deck necessarily, because we're not working within those parameters. Most of these cards were created by Leah, and I will be pulling from the cartomantic deck. I will be listening on my headphones to radio messages at a very high speed. So I won't be spitting out words that are necessarily actually coming into my ears, just what I hear.
That's what, but it's the automatic, shifting, right? SpiritBox basically. I'm sure
I'm using a SpiritBox. That's what it is. This is a PSB7 SpiritBox. It's
the classic.
A little old guy. And something about this is these guys are getting more and more expensive all the time. Not when I needed one. It was very cheap. So
I love. There's a part of me that just wants to take my old antiquated radio and cassette stuff and just make it so it just shifts.
Yeah, and there are ways to do that, I'm pretty sure. Like the guy Frank Sumption, the guy that kind of invented this technique, that's kind of what he did, is basically hacked a bunch of radios.
Just a scan,
just to keep scanning and just to go, and to pick up every single channel rather than to skip to the highest frequency broadcast or whatever.
Yeah, so you had a great rundown of the SpiritBox too, and I'm kind of paraphrasing, but your mention in LPA was just that, what it does is scans every radio frequency, and what it'll do is when it catches something that pierces that field of just static, it'll hold for a second and then keep going. It's like a gate almost in music. So I'm excited for this. Let me know what you need from me.
And one more thing is that we're also using, which she's in a bag, right? She's dead and wrapped in plastic tonight, but we've got the Haunted and Accursed pile here, which I named that before I ever ran it through the EQ, and the Haunted and Accursed pile equals 333.
No way.
Yes, the old number of Lord Kronzon. And per set here equals 156, the old number of Babylon. It also equals Temple BC. So anyways, whenever you're ready, I will do a little evocation. I will go ahead and put my headset on, and you can go right ahead asking questions or doing whatever you would like to do.
Just real quick, I love the painting you guys did together, and your coming together as a team, because I did the same thing with an album called Cactus Crown. So that's like
beautiful.
Yeah, pieces of art, Anyways,
Absolutely.
Okay.
Love is an art.
Love, it definitely is. And it's hard.
So right now I'm putting my hands over a flame that was lit 4 Prospectre and Prospectre's candle holder. And I'm going to say an Invocation to Prospectre. Build, feed, accelerate, destroy, rearrange these pieces until they take on a whole new meaning. Not there, but there. The figure keeps changing. Build, feed, accelerate, destroy, rearrange these pieces until they take on a whole new meaning. Not there, but there. The figure keeps changing. Rearrange these pieces until they take on a whole new meaning. Not there, but there. The figure keeps changing. Not there, but there. Not there, but there. The figure keeps changing. The figure keeps changing.
Enjoy talking to a ghost on tape.
Holy shit, just real quick, before we get back to the show, as I'm editing this, the Prospectre Ritual in the background, the SpiritBox yelps, Travis. Never picked up on that. Here, listen to it again. That's my birth name. Shh. Anyway, Johnny, get them back in the show.
Due to the listening post-alpha session not being, well, that entertaining for listeners, we've kept it in the video form, which you can view on YouTube. Please check the show notes for a direct link to the YouTube video. And if you're feeling really clever, you can check out Bobby Hale's own Gematria breakdown of this very session in a Google Doc, located as well in the show notes. So now, let's get back to the end of Bobby and Revel's fantastic chat as they discuss what just transpired in their first joint listening post-alpha session.
I'm sure you'll go back and listen to the questions. I did my best to kind of jockey questions from the audience and also give time for it to speak. That was my first interactive spirit.
Let me
box
show you
session.
what I pulled before we started. I pulled this from the Haunted and Cursed Pile. Face the Future is what it says.
Yeah.
And then it says, I really think leaders should be vulnerable at times. And then
beautiful.
Because this kind of work, I mean, it could all just be a bunch of bullshit sounding, just nothing or what. I mean, I don't from my end. I don't know. I don't know.
Right. No, I will say no. There was definitely some absolutely poignant and resonant things. The one thing that barked at me, though, there was a lot of, I think we were kind of asking about, there was a lot of talk about worshiping she. And then there was this whole diatribe after I asked, who is she?
Yeah, when the she stuff came in heavy, I was getting these weird feelings in my gut, right in the chakra where in the banishment we do the line there is by the vile ecstasies of Babylon and her beast.
Yeah. It was quite beautiful. And then when I tried to be a little I was maybe I was annoying to them, but I was, I didn't try to rest a lot on explain, but I would try to come back every now and again and ask what their name was. And if there were many, if there were one, and their responses were pretty, or the responses, I should say, were pretty fascinating. I took really bad, journalist notes during it, but I'm excited to kind of revisit.
Yeah, we'll go back and view it and submit it to analysis.
Yeah, because even the cards too were really poignant at parts. There was one I just, had to slide one in just personally. I think anytime I asked about, personality or consciousness existing after death, I was shut down every time. Stop. Nope, don't. Or you know what I mean?
That's
And
funny.
there was a lot of talk too about I brought up contradiction, and that's a big thing in my work as of late, and trying to find that third mind between, you know, these two warring selves, right? And they had, or that came up, and it was you know, what did they say? Worship her out of respect, come forth me the ship, you go walk, heating and contradiction, or heating about contradiction. And it was like there was a lot of it felt like a pat on the head of, you know, you're scrambling your brain too much. Shut the fuck up about stuff.
Right. And you know, I usually don't ask questions unless it's a certain, like, unless I have an intent, you know, beforehand. Like I've done stuff with, there was a local situation where, well, I mean, a tragedy where this kid, Summer Wells, went missing. And
I remember that name.
And I've done some mediumship work on that, you know, and gotten some real poignant answers, you know. But they're usually like, stop doing this. This is not what we want you to do. Like,
interesting.
Yeah, move on from it. Let the professionals deal with this, you know.
A big one was when I asked, like, can we become you? You know, was like a question of, or do we transcend to that spot? And they were very much like, you know, stop. But there were some other really poignant things. I have to look at this terrible hexadecimal.
Yeah, well,
it was gibber babber. But let's go before you leave. I would love to just, the chat was amazing. They asked some really great questions. There was a couple funny ones in there. We had to throw in the, like, what year is it, which I thought was hilarious. It's always got to be that guy, you know. No, but Eric Millar, a bit on the head when you asked if they were pleased with our anarchic ways of worship, and they said Amazon activity. Disruption Generator has been selling pretty good on Amazon lately. Oh,
also, yes, I've sold a lot of books in the past couple of days.
See, I took it the other way. I was like, oh, fuck, it's this conglomerate. You know, I'm in Seattle, right? So,
well, yeah,
Amazon's
right. We're using it.
Looming.
Yeah, well, it's like Amazon's kind of like the new Kinko's. It's like a big shitty corporation that you run all your DIY stuff through, you know. So
I love it. And Eric's, you know, been using it for years and has published a lot of great stuff. So awesome. I'm glad that it took it better than I interpreted it.
Yeah, I had I wasn't selling much there for a couple of months, and then I did a working not too long ago, and it was like sales start now, and then, you know, I've made I did pretty good after that.
Speaking of which, everyone, I put Bobby's books from just this past year. I think there's 4 of them or so, like, in the show notes, so please check them out. But this one got me. Was I really think leaders should be vulnerable sometimes.
Yeah, that was the first thing that I pulled when I walked in here before the show. Yeah, and that was
when I asked what her name was, because I kept asking it throughout because she kept coming up and worshiping she. They said her name is Even, and it is.
Said her name is Even.
Oh no. They just said Even. But it was, you said it this way. You said Eve N.
Yeah, it sounded like I couldn't make sense. It sounded like Eve when I heard. I was like, even, like I couldn't. I mean, yeah, I couldn't.
Yeah, so when I asked that, you said Eve N, and then you said internal.
Yeah, interesting.
And that must have. I felt like a piggyback about my contradiction ass too. You know, this communing with it, being even of. But yeah, and internally, there was some other really good ones. Sam was really good. Yeah, the chariot one.
Oh yeah, that one was weird. Yeah. It was. It felt Kabbalistic, like it was saying back down or something like that. And then
I have it Yeah, back down. The chariot is rising. But he says me.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Oh, star 11. A summer we played that. I think it says. I can't even read my own handwriting. It's hilarious because I'm just trying to, a summer we played that polite. Me back down. The chariot is rising. Yeah. Genius. Once again, it's flowers. That was the one that I jokingly was like, oh, your book, because I asked something about how we worship, like how should we worship her, and he mentioned it's flowers, or they mentioned it's flowers.
Oh, like the house of every flower.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
That's fucking crazy. Yeah.
Yeah.
Excuse my language.
Yeah, no. I'll be dissecting this for days to come because
Awesome. Me too.
Yeah, the beauty
amazing.
of this too, and why we should definitely do more of these, is that my interpretation is even just with that Amazon thing, a complete left field, like different interpretation. But having this
that's what's good about doing the group work is you get to get different perspectives and all that.
Yeah. Oh, that's right. And real quick, Ultima was saying
that's Groucho. That's Agent 444.
Groucho was saying he was mentioning that when I asked how to worship her, there was talk of like, I'm at night and I do something at midnight. And that was my thought.
Oh, well, I pulled the card. I put it back, but I pulled the card that I associate with Tome and Resh. Yeah. Which is but that's not midnight. I think Kefra is midnight, but
that was after you said Eve and Internal, and then I asked about how to worship her and said, I'm ready at night. The moral comes probably in this world. Do your thing, chops where we are. She's up all night. I forgive. Oh, and then it turns into, I asked something funny about me, and it says, I forgive you now. Avoid tie-up. Yeah. Children, his mother possible. I was like, well, a guy with mommy problems, I'm going to do this.
That wouldn't be me either. No, we just talked about that, though, the integrating the child and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, and once you submit this stuff to the analysis using the cipher, then it takes on a whole new meaning.
So that's what I wanted. Next time we'll plan a little more, because
that's pretty wild. Yeah, that's pretty wild.
Want to incorporate. My plan initially. This was late night last night because your work like gives me like, how to incorporate this. This would be great. And I was thinking
that's exactly what I want.
Yeah, an audiomancy ritual where I, in a meditative state, maybe with some tones and tussles to help induce, would just pick up a mic anytime a question came to me and record it on a cassette. And this calophone back here. And then, through almost like 2 points in time, like have you do the same thing, but just, play the questions.
Yeah, that's I like that idea. Yeah, you said something about that last night, I think.
Yeah.
That's a really cool, I love that.
Yeah, we'll have to do that. But I don't want to take too much more of your time, man. This was too much fun. I appreciate you.
Yeah.
This is great. Excellent. I'm going to definitely have to go back and scour the meetings. I'm sure there's some like just rollicking gut punches in there.
Maybe, you just never know. That's the risk you take. I felt like, man, this is a failure. Like I was like, at first it was wild because I wasn't getting anything from the radio. Like not until it was like it said reverse, and then and it's like you're going over the same stations, but for some reason when I put it in reverse, then it was like, boom, boom, boom.
What's hilarious is I wasn't sure if you would give me a cue as to when you were starting, and it did. I didn't start asking questions until you said reverse.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But this was, so much fun. Everyone, please check out the show notes. I've got to put Groucho's contact in there too, because in a nice word, I probably just mutilated his beautiful art for the cover of Listening Post Alpha, which is on Amazon, for the thumbnail. And yeah, Bobby's works are exciting. I hope to keep doing this. Appreciate everyone. Thank you for showing up. It's good to see
Thanks, everybody. Thanks for coming by.
And thank you, Bobby.
Hail Babylon.
Hail Babylon. Stay tuned after the show for some remarks about what has been going down since me and Bobby had that conversation. There's a lot of cool shit about. But any case, I'd like to share with you a track. This song is from a project called Dream Boys of the New Apocalypse. And while the title of the project might be tentative, my work and music with a K with Saroth The Mage should be forever. So the following track is called New Lands, and I will be submitting it to the Green Mushroom Project and WtH Digital Mixtape. Stay tuned after the track to hear a quick little chat I had with Saroth The Mage about this music, about music in general, and really just kicking against the prids. Take it away, Johnny. Get ready for the premiere track from Dream Boys of the New Apocalypse.
Foul black air and smoldering cities. Another terrible century begins. Shuddering down through spirals of time. Warlords and goose-stepping soldiers march in rank and line. Plague, war, and rumors of war. Europe in flames. Black rats. Vikings. Fever ships and ghost galleons. Dock crews of poisoned men. The horror of history. The apocalypse is at hand. Foaming foul-mouthed flagellants, the holy man, burning coals for eyes. God will not desert us. Repent, and ye shall never die. The bow strung tight, the flaming arrow of Christ. St. Anthony's fire, blackened limbs, ecstatic visions. They feverishly twitch and dance. The apocalypse is at hand. Far away upon the ragged sea, safe in humble quarters, the children of older gods accompany me. We sail for new lands in the west, the country where the sun is set to rest. Fast asleep on the black ship, cupping the water like an evil, prehistoric shark.
Stevie boy, how's it going?
Brilliant, I love it. I think it's better than the first version. And I was still doing Rise as the other one.
Yep, Rise is the third one. And
can't wait to hear that, man.
Yeah, me too. That one's going to prove to be far more easier than this one. Because I really just, that the music that I recorded that you put vocals on for Honquinox, that was like, I didn't mix or really master that much at all, and so today I really dove in, and I can get a little crazy with the cheese whiz.
Sounds fantastic.
I'd love to talk to you about like art though as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I love to talk about art.
but especially like art you'd like to use for.
Oh yes.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, most of the kind of better stuff you've seen is when I was doing a lot of painting and drawing back in the day. I always mean to get back to it, but I've got about 1 million other projects, and I've got constant guilt that I'm not, with listening post alpha. I never do the SpiritBox sessions on time, and so yeah, I'm kind of lost in music at the moment.
Yeah, I get that. Yeah, it like music's the trigger for me. Like when I have that kind of sorted, it bleeds into every other thing,
Yeah, it was something I desperately wanted to get back to from my days in the band in the crazy 90s, and it just never looked like it was going to happen. And then I got that key oscillator thing, and I said, wow, I can actually make some kind of sound, and I don't have to play any instruments. It pretty much plays itself.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
Yeah, and then I bought my guitars.
Still physically manipulating it.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, you can like just press a button and a program drum beat comes in, but I don't use any of that. So there is a degree of skill involved, but it's just such a delight to use.
You and Bobby were working on something too musically, right?
Yeah,
is that what the Spirit Descends is?
No, that is actually me and Justin, who is he's an old partner in crime of mine. We went through our addiction cycle pretty much together for the whole way, and now he's gloriously opiate free.
Awesome.
He took some ibogaine as well to try and just clear the rest of it out. He thinks he should have taken a bit more. So we've kind of reunited. No. Okay. He just ordered some online and took some advice from the guy he bought it from, and he thinks he maybe should have taken more. Although he did describe some pretty, it's not a pleasant experience, or it wasn't for him anyway.
Yeah, because it's supposed to just like shrink the entire withdrawal into like a day of like transcendental fucking madness, right?
Yeah, he saw like energy. He looked out the window and he could just see kind of weird energy floating down and stuff. But he's a great guy, a very, very talented guitarist. So he comes around every Thursday night. We drink beer, play music, and we are the Spirit Descends. So
awesome.
I'm trying to plug it heavy at the moment because I've only got like 24 subscribers. So it's just a name change. But it came about because we were talking about, as a musician and an artist, you'll know that when you're in the zone, and especially I think if you're playing with someone else and you both just get sucked up into that third mind, and we thought, well, a spirit descends like God on the face of the waters in Genesis or something like that.
Yeah, I like that. Dispatched by the clouds. Yeah. Yeah, that's a great name.
I don't do much social media nowadays. I just stick up any stuff that I'm trying to promote and talk to you and Bobby and the guys in that little group.
Yeah, that's such a great group. I'm excited that I have like two. I'm so used to finishing something and putting it out, and now I'm sitting on a lot of the stuff with the LPA and. Just this great cachet of things that, I get to really like meditate on and work with. And,
I kind of knew that you and Bobby and Leah and Sam and I were all bound to get on because they really come at things from a decidedly new angle, although they're extremely... they do proper magical rituals.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, Bobby is just a powerhouse. He never stops. I don't think he sleeps. He just spews gematria 24 hours.
Yeah, I'm excited for all that. It's been really inspirational. And
absolutely. It's really re-energized me magically. Because I was running out of steam there. I rarely... you really don't have to be doing rituals all the time if you have put a few years into it, I don't think. Because, every time I do a ritual, I think you mentioned earlier, it has these unexpected consequences, which can be extremely chaotic and sometimes negative.
Yeah.
you know, I've
Or
said it a million times.
negative at the time, right?
Yeah, because your whole life kind of drops and then has to rearrange itself in a higher form. So it's a funny old thing, magic.
Yeah, I agree with you though. As you know, the more you do it, the more it ingrains into your life. You start living a talismanic life. It starts becoming a part.
Yeah. You're thinking magically all the time, so you don't really have to put so much effort into it nowadays.
Yeah, you just need the total pomp and circumstance every once in a while at that point.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
The robes and erotic asphyxiation and all that.
Don't give away our secrets, Gates.
That chat with Saroth the Mage was taken from a recent LiminalStream. I was a guest on a podcast by Ali Words called The Last Unrifled Yah. And it was actually recorded on the eve of Haunt Manual's release, its very first chapter's release. But it didn't come out until 10 months later, last week. So I thought it was wise, maybe stupid, but I did a live stream basically reacting to it in a sort of hauntological prism, discussing the growth of Haunt Manual since the eve of its release to the 6th chapter I just released on hauntmanual.com. And afterwards, I chatted with Saroth, what you just heard there. You can check that out at youtube.com/PRAGMAGICK. And also, you know, in another funny hauntological prism, soon after the last Unrifled Yah appearance came out, my chat with Luxestrata, one that was recorded far more recently, was released. And you can listen to that on the Lux Occult podcast, wherever podcasts are casted. It was a fun time. We really dipped into the Ratitudes, and it's a good testament to my almost beingness with the Haunt Manual as it is now. I, of course, would like to thank Bobby Hale, Leah Ferris, Groucho, Trout, and Stevie, Saroth the Mage, all agents of Listening Post Alpha. Since this chat you just heard, which was basically the inspo punch inception of my working with the Listening Post Alpha, I have become an agent. I am Agent 333 of Listening Post Alpha, and this was accomplished by performing 3 Listening Post Alpha sessions with the SpiritBox and decoding with Gematria. And I've got to say, I have 3 major audiomantic and magical workings already in the bag that you can view at patreon.com/PRAGMAGICK. In the Haunt Manual workings, I am now working with the LPA rubric. I'm incorporating the SpiritBox, I'm incorporating the Gematria, and I almost have a novella of my transcriptions and breakdowns and all the whims and follies of all of these rituals. And it's been so rewarding. I will be releasing those in the future. But again, what you're hearing underneath is the Prospectre Ritual, the excerpt of which is on scavengerituals.com and their first issue. And it's some of my most moving and I think fantastic work yet. I, of course, am a little behind on the Haunt Manual audio chapters, but that's okay. They take time, and I'm really on a roll with just getting the literature out. So hauntmanual.com, as I've said, just released the 6th chapter, Salvo, Siempre Salvo. Please subscribe to that Substack for any updates. And this is my last bid to tell you that when this episode releases, you have mere days before you can still submit to the Green Mushroom Project and WtH Digital Mixtape Be sure to check all the links in the description. I have everything laid out. I have the contents of the episode and all relevant links. And with that, I'll leave you with a Dakota Slim song, as we opened with a song called Disolva from Dakota Slim's Cactus Crown. And now, I'll leave you with Coagula from the same record. And with that, haunt on.
Cast me out, alone and home. And the spectre curse to breathe. You invoked my ghost, and all you hiccup and tone. Keep the fears small, mostly reprieved. You soured the nice players who told you to go.